As far as the victims, again, we don't know who they are, but folks here in Westbury are concerned because they tell me it's a very tight-knit community, and they're wondering tonight if maybe, possibly, someone they know was in that car. The Suffolk Police Arson Squad, along with 2nd Precinct detectives, remain on the scene here in Dix Hills after what police are calling an altercation between brothers that led one to stab the other in the neck. It is the minority on the defensive. That's because 10 incumbent Democrats seeking re-election represent states the president won in 2016, including Deep Red, Montana, North Dakota, and West Virginia. Stone, we are here on Park Boulevard, and this is basically your Facebook news feed come to life. Take a look over here. These are folks who are opposed to the president's executive orders on immigration coming from those 7 Muslim-majority countries. But then right across the street on this side, there are pro-Trump supporters. The two sides continue to spar here, as is the case across the country. Well, Stone, you just went through the results there, and believe me, everybody in this room right now knows exactly how tight all of these races are. Marty says the hope is they can keep this place open for years now. A blue wave. Democrats have been talking about this for a while now. The idea that anti-Trump angst will fuel voters to show up at the polls, take congressional authority away from Republicans, and hand it to the opposition.
But Donald Trump is a pathological liar.
So what do the Democrats have to do to take control? All 435 seats in the House of Representatives are up for grabs. Democrats have to flip 23 seats to wrestle control away from Republicans. It sounds like a difficult task, but even the president acknowledges that history is on the side of the Democrats.
Remember this, for whatever reason, the party that wins the presidency almost always loses in the midterm. I don't know what that's all about.
In fact, since the early 1960s, the president's party has almost always lost seats in the House of Representatives in the following midterm elections. In fact, there's really only 2 exceptions. In 1998, Bill Clinton's Democrats gained seats during the president's 2nd term in office, and then again 4 years later when George W. Bush's Republicans gained seats in the aftermath of 9/11.
Folks, it's time to get up, lift our heads up, remember who the hell we are. This is America. Let's take back the Senate.
The trend generally holds true in the Senate as well, but it may not this year. Currently, the GOP has a 51-seat majority. There are 47 Democrats and 2 independents who caucus with the Democrats. It is the minority on the defensive. That's because 10 incumbent Democrats seeking re-election represent states the president won in 2016, including Deep Red, Montana, North Dakota, and West Virginia. On the flip side, just 1 Republican incumbent seeking re-election represents a state that Hillary Clinton won in 2016.
Don't get complacent.
There's an old saying, all politics is local. But in the era of Trump, when the president himself is calling on voters to make this election a referendum about him, they just might. And if history holds true, that could lead to a shift in power in the House and maybe even the Senate too. He was twice elected to serve as the highest-ranking official in Nassau County government. But on Friday, a jury determined that Ed Mangano betrayed the public's trust. The verdict marked the end of an era for Nassau and the former county executive.
I'm very proud of my service as county executive. I would not and could not be bribed by anyone.
Ed Mangano remained defiant Friday, even after a jury convicted him of corruption and found his wife Linda guilty of lying to the feds to help him cover it up. The devastating verdict marks the culmination of the former Nassau County executive's shocking fall from grace.
How you doing?
10 years ago, the little-known, dark-haired county legislator from Bethpage challenged 2-term Democratic incumbent Nassau executive Tom Suozzi. Mangano ran as a tax cutter and pulled off one of the greatest upsets in Long Island political history.
I appreciate everyone that voted for us, and we won't let you down. We will not let you down.
Mangano defeated Suozzi, although it wasn't quite official on Election Day. A recount later confirmed that the Bethpage Republican defeated Suozzi by less than 400 votes. 4 years later, Mangano proved his first victory was not a fluke. With his wife by his side, he defeated Swazi again, this time by double digits. He had guided the county through Superstorm Sandy, formed a bipartisan alliance with the governor, and held the line on property taxes, even as the cash-strapped county remained under the control of a state board. But in his second term, rumors began to swirl. Reports soon emerged that Mangano's longtime friend, Harendra Singh, had been arrested by the feds. Many began to wonder out loud if Singh would sing, and what that could mean for his old friend, the county executive. I asked Mangano as much during this interview in September of 2015. What was your reaction when you saw the charges against him?
It was, we've issued comment on this subject, and I'll refer you to our press office for the additional comment, on this particular subject.
So you don't have any inappropriate involvement with Singh?
Of course not.
But the feds didn't agree. In October of 2016, Ed and Linda Mangano, along with Oyster Bay Town Supervisor John Venditto, were arrested. Mangano remained in office but lost his own party's backing and decided against seeking re-election. In 2018, the first Mangano trial began. After 11 weeks, a jury acquitted Venditto.
I knew it, and now the jury knows it. Now the public knows it.
But the jurors weren't so sure about the Manganos. The trial ended with a hung jury. Federal prosecutors vowed to retry the Manganos, and they did. Last week, a new jury in the Mangano retrial delivered its verdict. Ed, guilty. Linda, guilty. The man who pulled off one of the most improbable upsets in Long Island politics could only stand and watch as his upset wife wept and vowed that this would not be the couple's final chapter.
I guess there's a sense of relief that it's over, but I can't stop fighting for what's right.
The Manganos maintain their innocence, and their attorneys say there will be a, quote, vigorous appeal.
It's 5 years. It's 5 years.
Title surge was here.
5 years after Superstorm Sandy, and Lindenhurst's Venetian Shores community, like so many others on Long Island's South Shore, is still rebuilding.
This is Spruce and Granada Parkway.
Keith Daniels' home is now nearly 5 feet higher than it was before the storm, yet it continues to weigh heavily on his mind and his checkbook.
I took a $47,000 loan, so that's on me. I'm having nightmares I didn't go high enough. Because if you look down the block, he's way up there. But New York Rising only paid for 4 feet.
Keith says his home was rebuilt a couple of years ago. His neighbor 2 homes away still isn't quite there yet.
My name is Dennis Lesser. I'm at 450 Granada Parkway, Lindenhurst, New York.
We've kept in touch with Dennis Lesser over the years. There was the flooding problem that routinely turned Granada Parkway into Granada River. And the mold-infested abandoned home next door, the one that remains abandoned even today.
The people haven't been back here in 5 years. They left right after the storm.
That home may be the nightmare next door, but it's this stack of papers that has kept Dennis awake many nights.
Some of these papers, Rich, are 5 years old.
Now, Dennis says there is some good news. The drainage on his block has improved, and his home is almost complete.
We have some front siding to do on the front of the house. We have some interior floors to put in. Money's getting tight now for everyone because we're all dipping into our own savings to try to finish.
Dipping into savings is a common theme here.
My name is John Cole. I live at 860 Atlantic Street in Lindenhurst, New York.
John Cole says he put all of his retirement money into rebuilding his home.
Over 350, gone.
And so while he lives up high now,
It's 13'4" to the first floor above the center line of the road.
his finances have hit a low point.
I had to do it. I had no choice.
For others, having no choice meant accepting a buyout and moving away.
Had a beautiful view there, and it was paradise before the storm hit.
Robert Bontempi used to live here on Venetian Boulevard. Now, his former property is a vacant lot.
Am I happy? Somewhat. I would have been happier staying in my house.
For the folks who decided to stick it out down here, they say the bottom line is this: the water can either be their best friend or their worst nightmare. That fact remains. Even after elevating their homes, they say really it's all about creating wiggle room, and there still isn't that much of it.
My name is William Biscotti. I live at 518 Venetian Boulevard. I've been living here for 53 years.
William Biscardi lives across the street from these vacant lots. Homes used to sit here until the state purchased the waterfront properties to serve as something of a natural barrier to guard against future storm surge.
To me, it's the same. There's no difference.
This isn't much of a barrier to you.
This is no barrier at all.
And so while some of the ghosts of Sandy have been vanquished, others remain. Yet for these folks, home remains home 5 years later.
I love this neighborhood. My family loves this neighborhood. I love my neighbors, and I'm not about to run from it.
Just gotta roll with the punches. It is what it is.
In Lindenhurst, Rich Barrabi, News 12, Long Island.